Greetings and salutations, ladies and distinguished gentlemen, dearest viewers. Welcome back to another reading of the Nazis and the Supernatural. We are continuing where we left off in Chapter 4, the SS as an aristocracy of race. We should be finishing the chapter by the end of this reading, hopefully. Without further ado, here we are. Chapter 4, The New Teutonic Knights, the SS as an aristocracy of race. All roads within the Nazi Party eventually led back to what Hitler once described as the bedrock of his faith, the racial doctrine. Other principles of the party may be jettisoned altogether or suspended periodically before returning, but the overriding primacy of anti-Semitism and the exaltation of Aryanism was one principle that Hitler never abandoned or modified. The demonization of Jews reached such levels of absurdity that it is incredible that they were ever believed, and yet the notion of them as a subhuman cartoon-like villain devoid of all redeeming features was relentlessly drummed into the heads of the German people. Against these mythical demons stood the noble Aryan, in the same way that the original Teutonic Knights required candidates seeking admission to their order to provide proof of pure aristocratic blood for 8 generations on both sides of their family. So within the ranks of the SS was it necessary for members to provide proof of pure Aryan blood going back 3 generations. The SS may have substituted an aristocracy of race for a literal nobility of blood, but in essence the principle remained the same, an elite governing the majority of the population. Himmler knew exactly what he expected of his black-coated knights. The fact that the aristocratic principle within the SS rested upon race rather than class offered new opportunities for social mobility. Lower middle class and working class people began to join the SS partly as a means of advancing their status and careers. Candidates wishing to join the SS had to undergo a rigorous, brutal training program of 2 years before they were admitted to the knightly order, and upon joining they had to swear a solemn oath of loyalty, unquestioning obedience, and fidelity. As a result of the 2-year probationary period before they were accepted into the order, they had already become deeply imbued with its ideology and its values, and had developed the type of character and adopted the style of behavior expected of them as members by the time they finally joined. The destruction of individuality. The SS offered its recruits a vision of a golden future with the racial aristocrats ruling the world. To become part of this utopia, it was necessary to abandon independence of thought and action, or even all individuality. The sacrifice of the self was justified on the grounds that it led to the development of the new man. Other aspects of the SS mentality were an idealized concept of nature and contempt for rationality. The SS man was expected to think with his blood rather than using his brains, and the existing moral compass was turned on its head. Nietzsche spoke in an entirely different context, and with a meaning far removed from the sense in which the Nazis misappropriated his phrase, the transvaluation of all values. In the ethical universe inhabited by the SS, such a transvaluation really did take place. Compassion was despised as weakness. Cruelty was glossed over as hardness. The notion of human dignity was replaced with total contempt for inferiors, and comradeship was valued above love or family ties. These men were brought to this state of mind through a relentless and brutal training program. Their own psychological and physical bullying at the hands of their instructors destroyed their personality and turned them into desensitized robots incapable of a single spontaneous human emotion. There was even a term coined for the mental state of the SS man. Okay, forgive me again, any German viewers. Cadaver Horsam, corpse obedience. Men were drilled for hours on end, compelled to crawl through pipes in narrow spaces, made to navigate obstacle courses, and forced to march for long distances without food or water. They were taught to be silent, to fight off dogs without any weapons, and to balance on their helmets a grenade from which the pin had been removed until it exploded. There was the psychological conditioning, a relentless mixture of racial mythology, meditations on the race soul, and the study of genealogy, of German history, and various forms of visualization that were adapted from Loyola's spiritual exercises. Under the triple pressures of psychological brainwashing, physical abuse, and a desperate desire to become a part of the knightly order creating a racial utopia, the character of the SS man was formed. He committed himself unconditionally to the service of the order for the rest of his life. An SS man abandoned any sense of selfhood to become part of the wider knightly community of the organization. The Nazi leader, Robert Ley, when addressing some of the SS recruits, commented, "Externally, you already look alike, and in a short time, you will be alike inside as well." Physical requirements of SS men. The physical similarities of the men were not accidental. Himmler laid down strict criteria for admission to the order, requiring that candidates must be at least 1.7 meters tall, 5 foot 7 inches, although if they were over 1.8 meters, 5 foot 11 inches, their height had to be proportionate to their body mass. The size of hands and thighs, the way they walked, the degree of body hair, even the extent to which they sweated, were all assessed for the individual's suitability for admission into the order. Before they even reached this stage of evaluation, Himmler personally studied photographs of the candidates. If they passed this initial screening, they were tested physically, psychologically, and in terms of their political soundness. They had to show proof that there were no genetic defects in their family tree and had to submit an examination for racial purity by a panel of race experts, doctors, and SS officers. Engagement and marriage decree. The racial requirements demanded of SS men did not end even when they were approved as members of the organization. Himmler's vision of them as an aristocracy of race led him to control every aspect of their lives. The notorious Engagement and Marriage Decree of the 31st of December 1931 required every member who wished to marry to obtain consent from the race office of the SS. Article 4 of this decree stated that marriage consent will be granted and denied solely and exclusively on the criteria of race and hereditary health. The requirements for the approval of the proposed marriage meant that not only the men had to be racially healthy, prospective brides had to demonstrate their own physical and mental health, give their family's medical history, and submit to medical examination, assessment, and measurements in order to establish their conformity to the Aryan ideal of womanhood. In addition to these requirements, would-be brides had to prove a family tree showing no Jewish, Slavonic, Black, or Asiatic ancestors, if possible as far back as 5 generations. All of these names, as well as those of the bride and groom, were then entered into the Table of Ancestors, which was then placed in the record of the race office. In spite of the overwhelmingly male and militaristic ethos of his order, Himmler was deeply troubled by the excessively masculine nature of German society in general, and the SS in particular. "We militarize impossible things," he said in an address to his Gruppenführers on the 18th of February, 1937. This extraordinary tirade denounced homosexuality, logical thinking, especially with regard to women, the oppression and undervaluation of women, Christianity, which he equated with homosexuality, the witch craze, and female tyranny, which he believed existed throughout the United States. Egalitarianism of the SS. In spite of the openly feudal nature of the SS, there was paradoxically a fierce egalitarianism within its ranks. Officers enjoyed absolute and unquestionable authority over and obedience from the men under their command, but they were strictly forbidden to abuse their power or derive personal gain from their position. Naturally, some SS men did break these rules, but if their transgression came to Himmler's attention, the guilty individual was demoted, expelled, or even sent to a concentration camp. The strange scale of values within the organization was clearly exemplified by Himmler's indifference to the suffering of others and yet his indignation at financial corruption. In his distorted scheme of things, the SS Knights had a sacred trust to purify the world through, among other things, the murder of inferior races, but they also had to display a total resistance to the ordinary temptations of their position, such as financial gain. The Nazi policy of Schien appearance meant that ideals, ceremonies, traditions, and training were employed extensively to command absolute, unquestioning, and instinctive allegiance to the doctrines and instructions of the Nazi regime and its ideology. One moment. I feel like I got like a frog in my throat or something. My apologies. Commander. Okay, my bad. I lost my spot. In no area of German life was this process more fully realized than among the ranks of the SS. Himmler taught them that they were a knightly order, charged with a sacred mission, and that only by following their quest to the bitter end could they achieve the bizarre redemption that Nazi values afforded to someone who did their job well. What the Nazis in general, and the SS in particular, sought to achieve was the utter destruction of individuality and an entirely collective sense of consciousness. The nation and the race were of the primary importance, and the individual's duty was to be an unquestioning cog within a vast machine, playing his or her allotted part within the wider whole. The concept of an organic society was put forward as a superior model to the fragmented and atomized model that the Nazis claimed was the result of liberalism. They focused their attention upon developing a type of member who is essentially an efficient but wholly depersonalized unit within the team, utterly incapable of independent thought or action. The SS Inner Circle. The inner circle of leadership within the SS was made of 12 individuals. They were Karl Wolff, Personlicher Stab Reichsführer, SS Gottlob Berger, SS Hauptamt. My apologies. There's like the German titles afterwards, like after their name, and I struggle with those. My apologies again. Hans Juttner, SS Führungsamtamt, Richard Walther Dare, Ross und Siedlungsamtamt. How the heck? Siedlungsamtamt, Paul Scharfer, Hauptamt SS Gert, Walter Schmidt, SS Personenhauptamt, Reinhard Heydrich, Reich, what the heck is this word? My apologies to any Germans listening. I'm fighting for my life right now. I'm sorry, guys. Reichischer Heitschaumtamt, Kurt Daluge, Hauptamt Ordnungspolizei, Oswald Pohl, SS Wirtschafts- und what the heck is Verwaltungsamt, August Heismeyer, Dienstenstyle, SS Orbungruppenführer, Werner Lorenz, Hauptamt Volksdusch Mittelstil, and Ulrich Griefeld, Hauptamt Reichskommissar für die Verteidigung Duschen Volksstons. Finally, geez Louise. I probably butchered the pronunciation on all of those. I was trying my hardest. I don't do multiple takes on these, so I think it's kind of funny for you, the viewer, to have to listen to this. Um, Again, though, my apologies. I don't speak any German at all. I did not take any German. Maybe I should have instead of Spanish. Oh well. These men, together with Himmler himself, made up the Inner Sanctum of 13, a figure that many speculate was not chosen arbitrarily, but precisely because of its anti-Christian associations. Certainly, Himmler regarded witches as Germanic heroines who had been martyred by the Catholic Church and who deserved to be honored rather than condemned. He may well have consciously determined on the traditional number for a witch's cover when establishing his own for a witch's coven, when establishing his own inner circle of initiates. The Nazi emphasis on tradition, public festivals, and a communal approach to life was particularly pronounced within the SS. In addition to Teutonic and Norse myths, the Arthurian legends, and particularly the story of the Holy Grail, profoundly influenced Himmler to the point of obsession. They played a key role in drawing up the rituals for the SS and the insignia they wore, and Himmler's pursuit of holy relics became a mania. He attempted to design the headquarters of his order in direct imitation of the Round Table and as a conscious homage to the Arthurian legends. How much further do I have? Oh, this section was longer than anticipated. I'm probably just going to do a 20-minute episode, so we're probably going to end after this portion here with the SS and public festivals. All right, my apologies. I have a concert to attend tomorrow. Well, technically later today, but yeah, my apologies. The SS and public festivals. Deliberate attempts were made to mythologize as many areas of German life as possible and to associate them in every conceivable way with the Nazi Party. From 1924 onwards, there was an annual celebration of the failed Munich Putsch in 1923, during which the blood flag was presented for an almost religious veneration. In 1925, Himmler commissioned a replica of the Spear of Destiny, which he insisted on keeping by his bedside as he slept. It was later transferred to Wurzburg Castle. Key dates in the year were focused on celebrating specifically Nordic or Nazi events or symbols. The Nazi year began on the 30th of January when Hitler was appointed Chancellor and made an announcement of what I, Hitler, took over and what I have done with the power entrusted to me. The day concluded with the induction of 18-year-old Hitler Youth members into full membership of the party. On the 24th of February, the Annunciation, a word which, with deliberately religious overtones, of the 25-point program of the Nazi Party was commemorated. Then, on the 18th of March, there was a memorial ceremony for those who had died during the First World War, including a performance of the second movement of Beethoven's Third Symphony. On the 20th of April, Hitler's birthday was celebrated, and the day closed with an army parade through the Brandenburg Gate. This was followed by the 1st of May, Workers' Day, when the party emphasized its oneness with the working classes. Hitler's welfare state policies and the socialist aspects of National Socialism. The Summer Solstice Festival was an important date in the SS calendar and on the neo-pagan wing of the Nazis, but it attracted much less public interest. The September celebration was different, and perhaps was the most popular of all Nazi festivals. It was the week-long party rally at Nuremberg that took place during the first week of September. Around 500,000 people attended the rally on average, and in 1938, almost 1 million were present. Hans Frank wrote, "In that week-long hymn of jubilation, colors, lights, music, and festivities, nobody thought ideologically, programmatically, or objectively politically." The end of September saw the Harvest Festival, where 50,000 agricultural workers and farmers marched to Bucherberg, and placed a giant wheat sheaf in the shape of a crown. Then, between the 8th and the 9th of November, the failed Munich Putsch of 1923 was commemorated. An event as solemn as the September Rally was joyful. All of these events were turned into public festivities with overtly religious overtones. The solstice ceremonies were celebrations particularly close to Himmler's heart. I keep stuttering, my bad. Through his influence, they became an integral part of the SS year. The summer festival included prizes for the winners of the SS sporting contest, girls dancing, and games for both boys and girls. At the winter solstice, the emphasis was on the past and upon honoring ancestors. Himmler stated, "A Volk that honors its ancestors will always have children, and only those Volker who know no ancestors are childless." All right, and we will leave off there. We will pick up next episode with baptisms and weddings, and likely finish the chapter. There is just a few more pages left. We are on page 103, and the chapter ends on page 109 by the looks of things. So, yeah. Again, sorry I have to cut this one relatively short. I do have a concert today to attend to, and I would quite like to be, well rested for that. I do record these late at night in my time zone. I'm not sure, what your time zone is the viewer is going to be. You probably get them at a different time than I finish recording them. But, yeah, that's going to be it for tonight. I thank you again for watching and listening with me as we read through The Nazis and the Supernatural by Michael Fitzgerald. And you have a most wonderful rest of your day. Attend some concerts for yourself. They're quite fun. Music and festivities is never bad. I mean, even Hitler knew this. He set up little celebrations, clearly. And, take care of yourself and be well.